welcome to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. A little hot coffee because it's getting chilly outside. For those of you that have never been here, I served 17 years straight in the New York prison system, in the big house, in the slammer, in the hooskow, in the joint, and all the other names they have for that place. It was not attractive. It was not fun. It was not beneficial. It was actually quite dangerous. I spent 17 years in there. Everybody else, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about double bunk situations, about living in a cell with another prisoner. What choice do you have? Do you get to pick who you live in the cell with? What prisons have double bunk and which ones don't? I'll explain it to you. I'll get right into it. And I'm going to tell you about some of the nightmare people that I ended up with in a double bunk situation. So first of all, let's talk about the maximum security prison system. There's a bunch of maximum security prison systems in New York State. Do you get double bunked when you go into the prison system? The answer is it depends. That's the answer. Sometimes you can walk into a maximum security prison and get placed right in your own cell. But the truth of the matter is usually you're in a two-man cell. It's a double bunk, one bed on top of another. When I went into Sing Sing, I was double bunked for like the first 3 months. When I went into Attica, I was double bunked, right? They usually put you in there with another prisoner. And then as the single man cells open up, you eventually go into a single man cell. Sometimes it can take a week, sometimes it can take 3 to 4 months to get your own cell. Okay. The medium security is different, right? But we'll get to that afterwards. I'll explain it later on. So you get put in a double bunk cell. Now, if you get on the top bunk, of course, it's a lot worse. You got to climb up and down, you know. Do you get to pick the cell is small too. The cell is the same size as a regular cell, which is 6 foot wide, right? Not wide. If you stretch out your arms like this, you could just about touch the walls of the cell. It's 6 foot wide and it's about 8 to 10 feet deep, right? No window, right? I'll give you Sing Sing cells for an example. 6 foot wide, 8 to 10 feet deep. What's in the cell is a toilet bowl, a sink, 2 foot lockers, and the double bunk beds. Metal walls, 3 metal walls, and the bars in front of you, just like you see, in most movies. And you're in that little cell with another guy for all those hours. So you better get along with one another. Some of the prisons try to put people in the cell based on race. They put white guys with white guys, black guys with black guys. And the reason they do that is because if there's racial tension inside of the prison, these two members of the opposite race aren't stuck in the cell with one another. Some prisoners don't care about it. Some prisons don't care, right? If you refuse to go in the cell with someone, if they're going to move you in the double bunk cell and you say, I'm not going in there, I don't want to live with anyone, or I don't want to be in there with that dude, then they'll move you to solitary confinement. And guess what? In solitary confinement, some of those are double bunk too. So it's really a catch-22 situation, right? When you get to the medium security, and then once you get your own cell, you're pretty much you're in your own cell for the remainder of your time. You won't be double bunked again unless you get transferred to another prison, right? So you got to get through a few months in the double bunk. In the medium security prisons, it's different because there's dormitories, cubicle type settings, but you still get double bunked. I've been in 6-man rooms. I've been in 12-man rooms, a room with 6 double bunks in it. So there's all different types of situations, but usually you could earn your way to a single man cubicle, a single man room, even in the mediums. It all depends what facility you're in. When I'm in Attica, they put me in when I'm in, sorry about that. My buddy was calling me on the phone. We'll call him back later. When I was in Attica. Was it Attica or Sing Sing? They put me in a cell with this kid, black kid, real respectful kid too. Really liked him. Um, but we're in this tight little spot together, and he saw me fight a couple of times in the prison system. So he always talked about, oh, yo, Fish, I love you, I got mad respect for you, you're a good dude. He wasn't disrespectful, he was very polite, but he wasn't clean at all, right? And now I got to be trapped in this double bunk room with him. And so after a few days of being in the double bunk with him, I'm like, what is that smell? Something stinks so bad, but I couldn't find out what it was. I knew it wasn't coming from me, and I knew it wasn't coming from anything that I had, like any of my belongings, any of my property. I'm like, what is this smell? So I'm smelling his pillowcase while he's not there. It's not the pillow. I smell his blanket. I smell his towel. I can't figure, and this is going on for a couple of days, and the smell is getting worse and worse. And so one day he leaves the cell, and I'm snooping around trying to find out what the hell stinks like this so bad. And he has a face cloth hanging over the sink. And I grab the face cloth and pick it up and smell it. And when I brought it to my nose, I almost vomited. I dropped it on the floor, just like, oh my God, right? It was so bad. It smelled like tuna fish mixed with ass. And this was his face cloth. So I put the thing back on the sink because I can't believe what I just smelled. It's absolute insanity. And when he comes in from the recreation yard, I watch him pick up the face cloth and wash his face with it. He wipes his face with this cloth that smells like dirt, feet, and ass. And I was so dumbfounded. Like, how does he not smell this nasty thing he is washing his face with? And I'm forced to live with this guy. The next time he left the cell, I took it and flushed it down the toilet. I remember him coming back saying, hey, yo, Fish, you see my face cloth? I said, nah, I ain't see it. I didn't see no face cloth. That thing was gone. So if you're a clean freak, and I'm a clean freak, if you're a clean freak, you're going to be locked in a cell like that with another guy. I heard on a couple of YouTube channels, guys that talk about prison, that they have a rule in prison that you have to sit down to urinate in the toilet bowl. And that the reason that guys sit when they're double bunked, and the reason that guys sit down on the toilet bowl is so the pee doesn't splash at all on the guy who's on the bottom bunk. Well, I spent 17 years straight in prison, and I'll tell you two things. No one is making me sit down to take a piss. And I never heard of that ever in New York State. You can't get your pee in the toilet bowl? First of all, next to the toilet bowl, we would hang a bed sheet to block and have a privacy area. So when you go to urinate in the toilet bowl or go to duty in the toilet bowl, you move your bed sheet around and create like a screen with your bed sheet. We hang stuff from the ceiling and move. This way you're in privacy. So nothing is sure. But they talk about on these other channels that guys have, when they said when they moved into a cell, the guy told me, you got to sit down to piss. I'm not sitting down to piss for anyone. I'm not a bitch. That's not happening. And nobody's making me sit down. I don't care if the guy is a gang leader in my cell. I don't give a shit who he is. I'm not sitting down to piss for anyone. That's crazy. So when you're locked, when you're locked in a cell with people, it's real tight quarters, man, and it can get emotional. There's no privacy. It's really stressful. And when you're trying to sleep, you hear the other guy snoring. When he turns over and moves, you hear the guy move. I mean, it's really hard. It's really rough to be double bunked with someone. You're already stressed out enough. Then I was in other double bunk situations where they put me in a double bunk with this guy Dave, and Dave was a black gay dude, right? And I'll tell you something right off the jump. I don't care about either one of those things. I don't care if a guy is white, black, Spanish, Dominican, Puerto Rican, Jamaican. I judge everyone as an individual. And I didn't care that he was a gay dude. As long as you respect me and play your position and mind your business, and don't try and do nothing stupid. You are who you are. We got to live in this room together. That's fine, right? And they put me in the double bunk with this dude. And one day I'm out in the recreational yard working out, and I come in. What was crazy about this guy too is he looked at female pornography books. Like he looked at Penthouse, he looked at Hustler, but he was openly gay, dude, and he was definitely petrified of me. You know what I mean? He was very nervous around me. And I used to tell him, Dave, I don't care about your business, your personal life, anything. As long as you're clean and respectful in this room and we have to live together for a few months, that's fine. You know, it was a medium security prison. There was no tension. There was no problems. But I came in from the yard one day and I opened the door. There were doors, not cell bars. This was in Wallkill prison, and there were doors. I opened the door and he's sitting on the bed masturbating. And I said, Dave, and he pulls the blanket over himself. I said, Dave, let me tell you something. If I ever see that again, you're going to the hospital. You're going straight to the hospital. You don't do that in this room. Even though I wasn't in the room when he was doing it, you don't do that in this room. You have the respect and courtesy that you have to live with another man right now, and that you don't do that. You want to go do that, you go do that in the shower. You go do that in the bathroom. You don't ever do that in this room again. You know, and so I had to deal with that for a little while. That was only for like a month. Then they give me a mentally ill guy, an Italian guy. This guy used to walk in and out of the room 50 times a day. He was truly mentally ill. And all he cared about was coffee and cigarettes. Can I have a sip of my coffee? All he cared about. You ever see the mentally ill? All they care about is coffee and cigarettes. I need a cigarette. I need a cigarette. I need a cup of coffee. That's all he did. They, boom, 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 million times in and out of the room for coffee and cigarettes. One night I'm sleeping on the bed, and it's got to be 12, 1 in the morning. I don't know what time it was. And he taps on the bed. Boom, boom, boom. And I open my eyes, and he goes, "Do you know what time chow is?" I said, "Yo, dude, listen to me, right? I couldn't. These were, you had to deal with people who were shot, right? And so the double bunk situations are pretty crazy, man, pretty crazy, and you have to deal with them if you go into the prison system. You know, when I moved into Mid-State Correctional Facility, Mid-State was a 12-man room, a 12-man room, right? And there were lockers like in between the beds. It was, you talk about no privacy at all. There's just a big locker right in front. There's a whole bunch of lockers in the middle of the room with 6 double bunks around it. And there's 12 men in this room. And they're burping and farting and sneezing and coughing and talking, and they're getting up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, and they're talking, they're listening to their radios, they're playing chess on top of the locker when you're trying to sleep, and it was just complete chaos. Complete chaos. And mid-state in this dorm, I was in a building called 4E, right, which was the honor dorm. I actually made it to. I had 2 corrupt cops in there too. That's another story. I had them bringing me everything, but that's another story. I was in 4E in Mid-State Correctional Facility in a 12-man room, and there were no single-man rooms in this thing. You can go from a 12-man room to a 6-man room, and from a 6-man room to a 4-man room, and I think there was only 2 2-man rooms. So there was no privacy in this facility. But I'll end with this, which is a nice story. I get a guy underneath me. I'm in the top bunk, which sucked, right? You want to be on the bottom bunk. It's easier to get in and out of bed. I'm in the top bunk, and they move an older black gentleman underneath me. And when I mean old, I mean he was in his late 60s, and I was in my late 30s, and they move him next. He's 68, 69 years old, and old, well, you call the old timers Pop. And so he comes, he introduces himself to me. I says, "How you doing?" Pop. And he moves right underneath me. So he's my bunkie. And Pop don't have nothing. This guy don't have nothing. He don't have a pot to piss in. But I like this guy a lot. Just the way he carries himself. He carries himself with a lot of respect. He's quiet. He minds his own business. He don't ask anyone for anything, and he don't have nothing. And I saw that he liked to go to church. And so I'm getting to know Pop, and I'm talking to him. I said, Pop, you like going to the church? Yeah, yeah, brother, love the church and this and that. I said, what are you in prison for? I want to see your rap sheet. I wanted to make sure he wasn't a rapist, make sure he wasn't a child molester, and he shows me his whole rap sheet, and I see he's in prison for an assault during a burglary, nothing that's really screwed up, no sex charges, nothing like that. And so I said, I'm going to take care of Pop. And I don't say this to brag or boast. I just saying how I wanted to make a difference in his life. The first thing I do is order him a very expensive Bible. I'm talking about $100 Bible, gorgeous Bible called the Schofield Bible, King James Bible Schofield. And I order him a new Bible, which he loves. I have it sent into the package room. And then I call my family and I said, listen, I want you to mail $250 to this guy's account. Do me a favor right here. I tell them the story. I says, he's a nice guy. He don't have anything in the world. I want him to be all right. When I say this guy don't have two nickels to rub together. So boom, my girl gets on the phone, mails him $250 into the account. Then I go to commissary. I buy a whole bunch of commissary, hit him off with his coffee, with his cigarettes, with his cakes, with his snacks, with his cold cuts, with his oatmeal, with everything. I load him up, and so he's comfortable now, you know what I mean? And he's always, oh, thank you so much, Fisher. I said, Pop, as long as you're here, I'm going to take care of you. As long as I'm here with you, you're going to be all right. You're not going to have to worry about anything in the world. Don't worry about it. And I continued that. It wasn't a one-time thing. And I just made sure that there was just something about him I liked, and I did that for a lot of guys in prison that I liked. If I saw that they were good dudes, I was in a position to be able to help them. I would help them, and it's one of the reasons why I got a lot of respect from the prison population. Because they saw it. Race didn't matter to me. Religion didn't matter to me. It didn't matter to me if the guy was a Muslim or a Jew or a Christian. He was a human being. When people ask me what I am, even on YouTube, people ask me what I am. They automatically assume that I'm Italian. I'm not saying I am. I'm not saying I'm not. But people assume everything, right? And when people ask me what I am, I don't tell them what I am. A matter of fact, I do tell them what I am. I'm a human being. That's what I am. Just like you. What does it matter? Christian, Jew, Muslim, Protestant, Albanian, Sicilian. What does it matter? African, Egyptian. We're all human beings. We're all stuck in the same position. We all made mistakes. We all need to do things to change our lives, to get back out there in the free world and make up for the wrong that we did. So it didn't matter to me what anyone was. I always looked at every single individual in life for the way they carried themselves. If I felt they were honest, if they had integrity, and if they were a good person, if they were a kind person. And so I took care of this guy with everything in the world. And then when his birthday was coming, I found out his birthday was coming. And I got a whole bunch of gifts mailed in. And then I wrapped them with wrapping paper. I got the officer to get me wrapping paper. I wrapped them with bows and everything. And when he was at lunch, I put all the gifts on his bed. And here comes this older black guy into the house. He's coming back from lunch on his birthday, miserable and depressed that he's trapped in prison, and he goes to his bed and there's 10, 15 presents, and what happened is other guys say, yo, Fish, what are you doing? I says, it's Pop's birthday today, man. And oh, yo, here, give him this, give him that. And people started getting, and he had a bed full of presents, and so it was just a cool thing. But I don't even know how I got into that. I'm sorry. You guys just got me running my mouth. That is double bunked is part of prison. Nobody wants to do it. You usually get stuck having to do it. If you don't want to do it, you can go to solitary confinement and stay there. Otherwise, it's a nightmare. Being double bunked is a nightmare, you know. And it could usually be 1, 2, 3, 4 months, whatever it is, and you're trapped in that cell. We used to try and work out a schedule a little bit. In other words, if I was double bunked with a guy, I'd say, listen, in the morning I'm going to go out to the rec yard so you can have the cell to yourself. And you can get up and wash up and do your thing, shave, clean up, fold your clothes, and I'm not in your way. I'm going to go to the yard in the morning. And then maybe you go to the yard in the afternoon and I'll stay in the cell and take care of what I have to take care of while you go out to the yard. And if you get a good bunkie, you guys work together like that because you're going to be in the bunk all night together. You lock in at 8, 9 o'clock at night. You're in there till 7 in the morning with each other. And I had some good guys too. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't all bad. I had a lot of bunkies through 17 years in prison. I was double bunked with a big shot of the Hell's Angels. I don't think he was the vice president, but he was up there. I was double bunked with Frankie, good dude. I was double bunked with a lot of good guys. And when you're living that close to one another, and you're living right on top of one another in a small space for a long period of time, you get to learn everything about one another. About the person's family history, about their likes and their dislikes, about their quirks and their character defects. Everybody has character defects. You really get to learn about one another, but you're trapped in a depressing situation together, a vulnerable situation. And it really creates a certain bond. If you're with a bunkie that you get along with good, I told you a few nightmare stories, or the guy Dave, or the mentally ill guy, or the guy with the stinky washcloth. Those were a few of the crazy ones. But I've had bunkies that were real good guys that I still talk to today, and we went through a lot together. You know what I mean? And so that's part of the being double bunked inside of the prison system. I'm wrapping this up for now. Hope you guys learned a little something about double bunks. One more sip of my coffee, and I'll talk to you guys later. All my best. You guys are the best.